Hello, I'm Tim Harris. This is Julie Harris, and this is Real Estate Coaching Radio.
That's right. So make sure that you hit the subscribe button so you won't miss any future episodes. Thanks again for popping by. Hit that like button, and don't forget to leave your comments and questions so we can get right back with you.
We will. Thank you for continuing to make our podcast, Real Estate Coaching Radio, the #1 listened to podcast for real estate professionals in at least the United States. And let us know what you think about this video. Leave your comments below. Thank you.
3, 2, 1, and we are back. And Julie and I are talking about what I have to say is our favorite topic in real estate.
As far as lead generation goes, I think it has to be.
Yeah, it is definitely our favorite topic in real estate. Longtime listeners, you will not be surprised what we're focused on today. But before we get to point number 1, we want to thank all of you for all the great feedback and all the great 5-star reviews on iTunes. And remember, please do give us a great 5-star review on iTunes and a pithy comment. Just scroll down to the bottom of your phone. A lot of you are listening to us on iTunes, Spotify, a lot of other sources. It really does help us tremendously, and we sincerely appreciate it when you do give us a 5-star review. And also, if you want to communicate with us, a great way to do it is just over on Instagram. Just go to timandjulieharris.com. I'm sorry, at Tim and Julie Harris, at Tim and Julie Harris on Instagram, and you can message us there. Julie and I update that usually once or twice a day. We intermix a lot of business and personal stuff. Lately, it's been mostly personal, I think. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So go ahead and listen. Go ahead and message us there. We love it when you guys give us show ideas too, or anything that you think that we might be able to convey to our millions of listeners that would be a benefit to the industry. We are an absolute sponge for information, so let us know what you're thinking by messaging us in Instagram, and it's at Tim and Julie Harris. All right, Julie, let's rumble. Our favorite lead generation topic, especially in this market now, is
expireds. You knew we were going to say it, longtime listeners, but why? We're going to talk about that. Why it should be your favorite as well. Well, expireds are the most obvious answer to taking and selling more listings. You need more listings. Every single one of you listening needs more listings. The market needs more listings. Your job in real estate is to be a problem solver, and there is no greater problem for a motivated seller than figuring out why their home didn't sell. You are a licensed real estate professional. Yes, most of you listening, they have a home to sell. They also have shown a willingness to list. It makes a lot of sense for you to be speaking with each other, doesn't it?
So what we're going to do is we're going to roll through these points. We're going to give you guys some scripts. We're going to go super fast. But we're also going to give you, I'm not a big fan of the word hacks, but we are indeed going to give you quite a few hacks as we go through these points. Write these things down. And I want to start out also by making it super clear. A lot of you use the excuse, well, there are no expireds in my marketplace. We're going to cover that. A lot of you give us the excuse, well, I don't know how to get expired information. We're going to cover that.
Yep.
What we're going to do in the 30 minutes that we have with you guys today is we're going to do our best to convince you that even if you have zero sales background, even if you have zero background with expired listings, or maybe zero background with even having a listing, after today's show, you will be motivated because we'll have educated you. So let's rumble Julie Harris.
That's right. So first I'm going to quote you, Tim, because we always like to start out with some motivation and then get into our points. You often say, quote, "If you do not yet have the wealth you desire and deserve, it is simply because you have yet to figure out how to help enough people reach their goals. When you help enough people achieve their goals, achieving your goals will follow. Expireds clearly need your help." So how can you literally make millions of dollars with expired listings? Well, we're going to do some expired math. So get your typing fingers handy or your pencil and paper.
And this is about 3rd grade level math. We ran this outline past Zoe.
Yes, she can do it. You can do it.
Exactly.
But I think it helps to write it down because it makes it more solid what we're talking about here. So here's our example. Not if, but when you have 10 conversations. Contacts. A contact is a conversation with a decision-making adult about real estate. When you have 10 per week, just 10 with expired sellers, 2 to 3 will absolutely, positively relist immediately.
Let's give them some facts. When you look at an expired listing, you guys can go and do this homework yourselves, or I'll save you the time. Basically, 100% of all expired listings relist and sell within 12 months. Most of them, I don't remember what the number was, it was like 75 or 85%, relist within the first 30 days.
And some of them, it is immediately. Usually 2 or 3 out of 10 are immediate, have to sell sellers, the best kind. At least one of those, remember we talked 2 to 3 out of 10, at least one of those will list with you. When you do this just 2 weeks per month, we're not even talking about it every week, using the average sale price in the U.S. today of $400,000. Some of you, it's double that. Netting you after 20% expenses, about $9,600 per transaction. That's 2 deals per month times $9,600. That's $19,200 per month times 12 months is $230,400. This is if you are only somewhat okay with this skill. This is while you're learning. This is only 10 conversations per week, only 2 weeks per month.
You know what I was thinking as you were reading those things? Agents who are thinking to themselves, oh my gosh, Julie, what if this actually works? And what if I have too many listings and too many listing appointments and I am too busy helping too many people and the rest of it? I have a suggestion for all of you, dear listeners. Let's create the problem and figure it out once we have the problem.
We can help you with that.
Stop using fictitious in your brain problems as an excuse not to actually take advantage of this opportunity.
Exactly. So here's a secret. Well, not anymore after I say it. Most of our premier coaching clients are or are becoming far better than the somewhat okay at this lead generation method. Most of them can set one expired appointment nearly per day, take 2 listings per week, and are grossing over $1 million per year. Why? Because it's not just the expired listing that you're selling. It's the additional business it creates for you. We'll talk more about that later.
Okay, so let's give them an advanced
Sure.
expired hunting tip. So many of you are going to get into your MLSs right now after listening to Julie's just a little bit we've presented, only 0.1 so far. And you're going to say, well, Julie, there's not a lot of expireds. So I'm going to give you, actually, I'm going to fire hose you guys with some suggestions. Stop looking in your tiny little micro market. Stop looking in just the neighborhood that you serve and you focus on.
Your favorite MLS code.
Exactly. Stop, building a moat around essentially a tiny little market and say, this is all I'm going to ever focus on. That is a huge mistake. So if you want to really convince yourself of the opportunity that expired listings are, go to your MLS and search the number of expired and withdrawn listings for the past 12 months. And if you really want to frustrate yourself, and I mean that in a good way, look to see how many of those relisted and were sold. I have done this exercise with many of you, and the number is always ridiculously huge. And then, really to frankly drive the point home, I had used, let's say there were 5,000 expireds in the last 12 months, and then how many of those, this is an exact experience I had with somebody in San Francisco.
I think you broke the MLS looking it up.
Was it San Francisco that I did this in?
No, it was in Florida when we saw Dan and Carrie.
Oh, that's right. It was in Florida. That's right.
Yep.
Yes. And Dan did it on his phone, and he actually couldn't go back 12 months. He could only go 6 months.
Yep.
And this isn't a super hot market, and it was 5,000, right?
Yep.
Okay. And what he couldn't figure out was how many of and the average sale price in them. We were in Dade County, right? Mm-hmm. And so the average sale price had to have been at least $400,000.
Maybe even more, but yeah, at least.
Exactly. So if you would have done the math on that, how many of the 5,000 got relisted and sold within 12 months, or even 6 months times $12,000, that's an enormous opportunity that you can seize. And how many of those do you actually have to list yourself to have huge amounts of success? And we're just talking about the expired listing. We're not talking about the fact that you might sell it yourself. We're not talking about the fact that you might then work with that seller to buy something else. We're not talking about the fact that the neighbor is going to be impressed enough with the fact that you sold a house that the other agent, who's been the bedrock agent in that community forever, who is the go-to agent in that market, failed at selling that house, and now the neighbor sees that you sold it, and guess what? They're now going to call you out to sell their house, not the agent that's been there for 30 years.
How about all the open house leads you'll get from it?
You guys get the reason why markets like this create the most opportunity, because the market is in itself the opportunity.
That's right. So how do you actually get phone numbers for sellers of expired listings? RedX is a company that supplies you with all the intel and makes you super efficient in your pursuit of expired listings.
All right, so there's advanced tip number 2. Do not use the excuse that you have to spend a lot of time trying to get the expired information yourself. You are correct. It is a huge waste of time. So here's what all of you should do from today's podcast. Text the word RED. You can do it now. You can still listen on your iPhone while you're texting. Text the word RED to 47372. Text the word RED to 47372. We'll text you back a link, and then you can join RedX and save $150. Don't think about it. Just do it. Just text the word RED to 47372. Now, what do? They're going to go into your MLS, and they're going to find all the expired listing information, and you're going to search in a big geographic area. Now, if you're in LA and driving, 30 miles takes you 5 hours, maybe that's not realistic. So you adjust accordingly. So search in the largest area that you can conceivably service. And then the next thing, what you're going to do is ask them to pull the old expireds. The honey hole for expireds right now is about the same time that COVID hit, about 2 years ago.
Yep.
There are a lot of listings that got taken off the market. A lot of sellers became essentially reluctant landlords and decided to lease them. There's a lot of, interesting market opportunities out there, and they're not getting any calls or letters or anything from any of your potential competitors. Do not use competition as an excuse not to win, because with our Premier Coaching Program, we're going to make it so competing is something that you look forward to, not something you try to avoid. So text the word RED, R-E-D, to 47372. Text the word RED, R-E-D, to 47372. And like I said, we'll text you back a link. Click the link, and then you can subscribe to RedX at a $150 discount. This is something all of you should do, and you should do it urgently. Remember, when texting, message and data rates may apply.
Point number 2 about expireds: the ratios of contact to conversion are the best of any opportunity that you have in real estate. What are we talking about? A ratio of contact to conversion. That's how many contacts it takes to convert one listing appointment.
Okay, so let's define that. You're going to subscribe to RedX. They're going to send you 30 expireds, or whatever the number is. You're then going to have 30 expireds that you're going to dial. You're going to call them. You're going to use our scripts. You're going to know exactly what to say and how to say it. Yes, you're going to be a little jittery when you start, but then you're going to realize that it's frankly not that difficult. It's a hell of a lot easier to get a listing appointment and having a meaningful conversation with an expired listing than it is to try to figure out some 14-stage funnel and trying to generate one lead that's probably a buyer that'll never buy. This is the way to get directly in front of people who have already self-identified as being ready to go sellers. And as Julie said at the top of the show today, we know what the price maybe isn't because it expired at that price. They're going to be way more receptive to fixing any condition issues. We know they're going to hire an agent. You don't have to, convince them of that, unlike, say, for example, for sale by owner.
Yep.
Oh, we also know that they're willing to pay a commission. So you have all of these things going for you, which makes the process even better. Now you show up at that expired's house after pre-qualifying and setting an appointment. You've sent the pre-listing pack ahead of time. This is the reason Julie and I are genuinely excited about expired. So your conversion ratio is they send you 30 expireds today. Oh my gosh, there aren't any expireds in my market. Well, guess what? There were 30. You dial all 30, and let's say you make contact with, say, 15 or 12. Contact is a conversation with a decision-making adult. And from that, statistically, you're probably going to set at least one appointment, one pre-qualified listing appointment. You just set a listing appointment with a seller and you don't have to pay a referral fee on your own. That's called being a proactive lead generator. Just me saying these words, how does it make you feel?
I know. And that's just if you're only okay with it. Then
Yes.
you get better and better. And, we're talking about the conversion ratio of about 1 out of 10 when you've gotten going on the script. When you do that, you also will create a lot of expired lead follow-up where they're just taking a break from it. That doesn't mean that they never relist. It just wasn't that day.
So let's just frame this out. So in the, say 20 years ago, in many of the major markets, there were very, very good, like when Julie and I sold real estate, there was somebody who called himself Dr. Fizbo. His name was Mike Perchetti.
Yep.
He had a Mercedes, and the plate was literally Dr. FSBO. Now, I want to tell you, Dr. Fizbo, Mike, he was damn good at hunting.
He was great at it.
Really good. And why did he call himself Dr. Fizbo? It was kind of a joke, but he basically said being a Fizbo's a health problem that he's out there.
He was there to diagnose it. Something is wrong with you if you are a Fizbo.
Exactly.
Yes.
So, he was trying to have some fun with it, but obviously Mike was very good at proactively lead generating to for sale by owners, and then obviously pre-qualifying, setting appointments, and selling for sale by owners. He would sell about 100 for sale by owners per year. So those types of people with that level of skill, they're still out there. But in the last 15 years, trust me when I tell you, most agents, most of you have never developed this skill.
Most of them can't even find it in their MLS.
And most of you don't even know what RedX is, like we just told you, right? Some of you have only been in this market where you buy leads. Buying leads for you is normal. Working out your brand is normal. That's what you're supposed to focus on. After all, that's what everyone tells you. Well, what if you've decided now, because of this changing market, that you're tired of waiting around for one of these mystical marketing ideas to work, and you're instead going to go directly proactively after the actual sellers that have homes for sale? You now have developed a higher IQ with regards to business acumen, and you decided to really put yourself in a position to help people and make money. You're going to then start routinely making those contacts every single day. You're going to get to the point, as Julie alluded to before, where you start setting a pre-qualified listing appointment every single day. Tim, I can't handle that many listing appointments. Let's have that problem. We'll work through it. What do you say, listener?
There you go. And I have to say, for our grizzled veteran listeners who already are maybe sitting on 10 listings, some of our coaching clients are like this. Why not implement this, not instead of what you're already doing, but in addition to supplement your listing quest, right? So that you can add to your inventory faster. Maybe you build it up to 15 instead of 10 because you learn how to do expired.
I don't like saying real estate or really any business is a numbers game. It seems cold to me and callous and, dehumanizing the fact that you're dealing with people and your real mission in life is to be of service to other people. That said, it really does come down to numbers. And that's what a business approach to any business is about. This many expired contacts, this many appointments set, this many listings taken. That is a business approach that when you look at the marketing and branding people, they do not want you to be thinking like that, do they? It's because you now can hold yourself accountable to improving your ability to make contacts, to set, obviously pre-qualify and set appointments. That is a skills-based approach, and you're going to find miraculously you have virtually no competitors in any market that's going to have developed this skill set or might not even be aware of it because they're too mired in the idea that they have to become the mayor of their town and create 16 billion YouTube videos.
That's right. Okay, point number 3, expired listings have been market tested. You know, in many cases, what the wrong price is, but as you said, if you go back to 2020, the house is appreciated. They're probably going to get what they expired at. So, do your own numbers. But sometimes you can relist at the same price and still sell the house right away. Either way, the days on the market for relisted expired homes are way fewer than fresh listings, especially in a shifting market. We see it all the time. Something expires. It was 90 days on the market. It gets relisted. Maybe a tiny price tweak, better staging, better pictures, better description, and it sells right away. It sells like that weekend.
Do not, and I've seen this, you guys say this sometimes, do not convince yourself just because it's an expired listing that is for something's wrong with the listing. There could have very well been something wrong with the price, condition, location, or the price, obviously, as I said first.
Showing instructions.
But it's probably the seller wasn't that motivated, didn't allow the showings when the buyers wanted to see the property. You don't know. Maybe they had a pet donkey that was in the house. I mean, who knows, right?
I have a very good example of this, okay? And actually, you said pet donkey, but that's a different story because that was a miniature horse. But anyway, I have a coaching client in Indianapolis, okay? World's most normal market. She was a great expired hunter. She would go from the top to the bottom. We mentioned her on a previous podcast, but I didn't get to the punchline. Her name is Emily, okay? She's now retired, but this was her game, okay? Indianapolis, not a resort market, not on the coast, nothing. She would start at the high end, which in India at the time was about $1 million, okay? You could buy a beautiful house in Indianapolis for $1 million. She called an expired for $1 million, okay? He said to her, I will do anything. Just tell me what to do to sell it. And you know what he said in conversation? He said, I knew it was overpriced at $1 million, but I was building a house, some other community in India, okay? I was building it. I had my house on the market for $1 million while it was under construction saying, well, if I could get $1 million, then maybe I'd do a double move and it would be worth it. I didn't get that. He said, just tell me, now that I have 2 mortgages that were both over $800,000, I don't want to pay huge mortgages. I don't want to have double mortgages. Tell me what to do. She said, you're going to have to be at about $799. He said, done. She sold it the next weekend.
There are 2 types of real estate clients which will always make you feel amazing. They'll always show the most appreciation. Frankly, first-time buyers.
Yes.
You get the most sort of emotional.
They need you.
They do. And you feel, frankly, fantastic helping a first-time buyer. Number 2, it's going to be expired listings.
Yes.
The expired seller feels rejected. In a lot of ways, they were rejected. Their house was rejected, right? The market rejected their home. So an expired seller is going to be unbelievably loyal to you once you sell that house.
Yes.
And it's really important. Julie and I have been bouncing this back and forth. Do not assume the price was the issue. Here's a little script for you. Mr. Seller, sometimes the best homes don't sell, and not for the reason you've probably been told, right? You can just leave it there. It's just,
makes them curious to talk to you, right?
It's going to be hanging there, right? Yes, sometimes the best homes don't sell, Mr. Seller, not for the reasons you've probably been told. Because Julie also said this, if the house expired, if you're hunting old expired and you're calling back to 2020, there's a really good chance, like pretty much 100% chance
Yeah.
that maybe it was overpriced then, maybe it didn't sell.
Back then.
But now because of inflation, you guys call it appreciation if you want to, but because of inflation, not only is it not overpriced at their old price, but now it's even worth more than their old price.
Wouldn't they be happy to hear that? Do a new net sheet for them. They'll probably list with you,
It
right?
it just is a sidestep for sale by owners. A lot of for sale by owners are underpricing their houses too. So yeah, and a lot of for sale by owners
That's
are
true.
actually formal expired listings. And so do not convince yourself or do not believe your own Mickey Mouse about the fact that the seller is going to be unrealistic about price or any of the rest of it. You guys will, I'm not calling somebody else's listing they couldn't sell. Why not? I don't want to offend that other agent and I don't want to go after it. Why are we thinking like this? Why don't you go and focus on what your highest and truest purpose on this planet is, which is being of service to other people. In this case, you are a real estate. Can you imagine, Julie, a doctor? Because I hear that too, right? A doctor, like doctor, I had this problem. I already asked your, competitor doctor down the street, and he told me he can't help me. And you're going to say as a doctor, oh, you know what? I don't want to offend Dr. Bob down the street, so I'm not going to help you. But that's what agents do.
I know.
Agents will say, I'm not going to call on Bob's past expired. I don't want to offend him. Excuse me?
You weren't the client. Okay. Anyway, yes, don't get mired in all that. All right, number 4, the agent you would have competed against when it was a fresh listing has failed to sell the home. The seller is now serious about getting it a fresh approach from someone who will solve their problem.
So your biggest competitor was probably an agent who had that seller as a center of influence in past clients.
Yes.
That number one competitor probably just waltzed in there and probably didn't have a very formal approach to getting the house sold or let alone earning the business. And they didn't have to, frankly, because they had that relationship. Well, guess what? They failed. So your number one competitor is off the board.
That's right. Okay. Point number 5, the seller of an expired home will correct any negative feedback for you when you relist it versus resisting when it was a fresh listing. They sell that all the time.
Assuming that the previous listing agent got feedback after the showings, which they probably did not.
Yes.
Now, if you walk into a house and it looks like Land of the Lost inside, complete with the monkeys and the vines, you might want to have a stager go in there and give them the bad news about the condition so you're not the bad guy. So that's sort of an advanced coaching suggestion. A lot of times sellers, if they're not super receptive to fixing whatever needs to be done on the property, and you walk in, you immediately know what the problem is, emotionally, unless you can see clear evidence that they're incredibly motivated. So for example, if they have a high level of motivation, they're absolutely must-sell sellers, and they have a relatively short period as far as the time frame to get the home sold, and with their permission, and you have to use our scripts, after you have the listing signed, then you can give them the conditioning issue. Don't give them conditioning issue on the property before the listing contract is signed, because what you're probably doing is just doing the previous listing agent's job, and they're then going to relist with the old agent after they've done the improvements to the property that you're suggesting. So you have to be strategic about all of these things. You're not running a nonprofit, right? You're not going out there and just doing public service. You're out there to deliver a product, which is your expertise, in exchange for a fee. And if, that is really what your focus is. You go out there and you kind of puke everything you know on that seller, and they ended up listing with somebody else and using all your suggestions to basically get the property sold. That was your fault. These are all things that I hope you don't learn from bad experiences, that frankly I hope you learn from what I just said, but also from becoming a Premier Coaching client. And if you have yet to join Premier Coaching, we've made it really easy for you. Scroll down in the description and just click the link to join Premier Coaching. It's that easy. The description of the podcast, the description over on YouTube, it's there waiting for you. Or you can just go to premiercoaching.com. And yes, to be clear, that does include a daily semi-private coaching call with a Harris certified coach. So just scroll down, you get immediate access to the first level of Premier Coaching. And yes, that does include a daily coaching call with a Harris certified coach. Do that urgently. That's something that goes perfectly hand in hand with RedX, because now you're going to be getting a lead source from RedX. Now you're going to have our listing scripts. You're going to have our pre-listing pack. You're going to have our pre-qualification script. You're going to have our listing appointment. You are good to go.
That's right. So point number 6 might be my favorite. The listing that you take, the expired listing that you turn into your new listing, will create more business for you as a result of your efforts to sell it. You're going to follow our systems in Premier Coaching to turn that one listing into multiple sales. You talked about this a little bit earlier in the pod. It's the things that you do with that active listing. Who cares that it wasn't expired? It's your new listing. Do your open house, do your just listed, your just sold, your door knocking around it, your lead follow-up around it. The neighbors are going to see what you're doing. You're going to have a huge neighbors open house. All of these things, because you took that listing, that doesn't mean you're only going to sell that listing. You're going to spin that into a lot more transactions.
I fear for all the agents out there that have only known to buy business through, frankly, marketing and branding or through direct referral fees or buying them from one of these zillions of companies that basically will sell agents leads. I fear for you guys because you have never actually learned how to generate your own business. Julie, in just one little point number 6, just gave you a list of ways that once you take an expired listing or any listing for that matter, you can create lots and lots of free real estate business, no referral fees. Our advanced coaching clients will never pay a referral fee unless it's a traditional agent-to-agent referral. They just won't buy any business, period, full stop, because they know they can generate their own.
That's right. Okay, now, point number 7, we've been throwing the topic around of scripts. The scripts that go with the expired prospecting are logical and easy to learn. Remember that you're there to solve a problem, speaking to almost always a very motivated seller. Now, remember your expired math that we discussed at the top of today's podcast? You don't have to make thousands of contacts. You don't have to create an elaborate drip system or pay a huge referral fee to make millions of dollars listing and, of course, selling expired homes. So if you need more help, get involved with Premier Coaching by simply visiting premiercoaching.com so we can educate you, motivate you, and keep you in action, and of course, get you that expired script.
Thank you for keeping this the number one listen to daily podcast for real estate professionals. We love the half hour that we get to spend with you guys every single day. Thank you for the great 5-star reviews over in iTunes. And if you're looking for, obviously, the best compliment for the podcast, this is merely training that we do on the show. You need to join Premier Coaching. Julie just told you how to do it. And a lot of you are also purchasing our best-selling book, Harris Rules. It's available in everywhere, as you can possibly imagine, including Barnes & Noble and every major bookseller. By the way, if you guys want to give us a little treat, when you're at your bookstore, take a picture of Harris Rules on your bookshelf. We always get a kick out of what books are around our book on the bookshelves, because it's obvious to us that Barnes & Noble doesn't quite know where to put our book.
Yes, it's very random, the things it's around.
Yeah,
yes.
So here's the funny part. Usually it's a huge bookshelf with books on both sides, right? So on one side of the bookshelves are all the mindset books, all the
self-help stuff,
all the woo-woo self-help stuff, right? Then on the other side, you start getting into the business stuff, a lot of real estate investing books. And then you start seeing maybe some of though these books aren't around anymore, it's like they were, the Bitcoin investing books. And then you'll see Julie and I's book. And so sometimes we see it like Crypto Dad or just different places. But we get a kick out of it. So when you're at Barnes & Noble, do take a picture of where the book sits on your bookshelf and have a good laugh with us, because it is kind of funny. Can you imagine the book person going, I have nowhere to, whatever.
What do I do with this?
Yeah, exactly. Well, thank you for keeping this number one listen to daily podcast for real estate professionals in at least the United States. You guys have a fantastic day. We'll talk with you on the show tomorrow.
Hello, thank you for having watched this video. Please remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel.
That's right. And don't forget to hit that like button, leave your comments and questions below, and we will get right back with you.
Thank you for watching this video. And remember to watch the next one. You're going to love that one.